Hello and welcome to this week's edition of What's Up Danville. I'm your host Mark Aron, Multimedia Design Manager for the City of Danville. This week we're at the Danville Public Library right here in the heart of the River District on Patton Street, the main branch of the Danville Public Library. Joining me today is the Director of the Library, Joe Zabacosta. And Joe, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Sure, thanks for coming by.
And the reason we're here today is the Danville Public Library is sponsoring a community read, and this is really in partnership with Danville United. You're going to hear a lot more about Danville United here on River City TV in the upcoming weeks, but this is a coalition that was recently formed to help us celebrate diversity here in our community, and we're going to do that in a variety of different ways. And on today's show, we are going to discuss a way that you can get involved here in our community to do just that, celebrate its diversity, be a more welcoming community of all individuals. And today, we'll talk a little bit more about this book that Joe has chosen. And Joe, tell me about why the Danville Public Library thought a community read would be a great opportunity to bring the city of Danville together.
Okay, well, first, I thought that when I was at the first Danville United meeting that I attended in January, I felt inspired that the library could do something to be involved, and so I thought, how would we get involved and what would be something we could do? The first thing that I thought we could do on a short-term basis that we could get done without a whole lot of planning would to have a book discussion. So basically having a book club where we would ask people to read a book and then get together and discuss what they liked, didn't like, some of the finer points, or we could talk in generalities, and if we get off the subject and talk about other things, that's all great too. Right,
very good. So the book that we have chosen is Americanah. Now tell me a little bit about why you chose this particular book.
Well, I looked at all the books that discuss issues with race and community, and I wanted to find something that was contemporary, that spoke more to the way things are now, and so that we could have a discussion about the way things are currently. And one thing that kept popping up was this author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and I thought, well, I'll look at some of the things that she's done. And she's written a lot of essays. She has a TED Talk. She has a lot of really great interviews. And so I listened to her, and I started thinking, this is definitely somebody who it's a different perspective because she's actually a Nigerian, but she came to America while she was in college and discovered certain things that maybe we don't realize because we're involved with every day about race and about our culture. And so she had a really good way of explaining it too that wasn't, it's somehow in some ways humorous, in some ways she could just talk freely, whereas maybe someone else might feel inhibited just because of their being involved in our culture.
So obviously she faced some challenges. She came over from Nigeria and just fitting in a different type of culture, right? Yeah, okay. So now, Americanah, tell me a little bit about the storyline within this book.
Okay, well this story is semi-autobiographical in that it's very similar to the author's life. It's about a woman who comes from Nigeria to attend college here in New Jersey, and begins to realize that she wants to go back to her home country. It's a love story too. There's a love story in there. She wants to go back to be with somebody. At some point though, she does come back, and she starts a blog about race and culture in the United States. And in the blog, she addresses a lot of different things, like the way we refer to things and talk about things. And again, it's done in a very tactful way. It's not attacking. It's not accusing. It's not making fun. It's more about just saying, here it is, and it almost helps you to realize something that maybe you didn't even catch yourself because we're sort of involved in it.
Set in our ways, yeah. And so it's kind of like what Danville United is trying to do here, just create a discussion, get people together from all different walks of life who may not normally sit at the same table together in any other form. They're getting the opportunity to do that through Danville United, and a lot of different partners are coming together to make that topic of discussion more prevalent in our community in a variety of different ways. That's why we're on today's show. First, for this community read, we're going to be at the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History later in the show because we're going to do a community sing. We're going to learn a lot more about that. So, Joe, tell me some of the takeaways. I know you're wrapping up finishing this book, but you're going to have a discussion here at the Danville Public Library later in February. Give me the date and time for that discussion, and what will be the topics that will be thrown around during that meeting.
Okay. Well, the book discussion is February 27th at 6 p.m. in the library auditorium.
All right.
And I have set questions that I have that are discussion questions that I either came up with or I found out there related to this book.
Okay.
And I'll ask those questions, but I'll just sort of be there as a moderator, not to necessarily lead anyone into a certain conversation, but just to kind of keep the conversation going.
Right.
So that it's more for it's for the people who come to that meeting and who've read the book. It's not just I'm not going to be doing a book review necessarily. Just I'm there to kind of ask.
You're
the
just
question,
facilitating. Yeah, very good.
So that's basically it.
So hopefully we'll create a great dialogue on a variety of different topics, and who knows where it may lead. Hopefully it will lead to a deeper discussion maybe later down the road, and maybe a possible another book read here in our community. But let's talk a little bit more about the book itself. And some of the issues she faced as she came over to the United States. But you said she made her way back to Nigeria, and then that is where it was having trouble fitting in at that point, right? Is that some of the struggles she faced when she went back to Nigeria? Or?
I think that she decides to come back, just it's not working out there.
Okay.
But so she feels a calling to come back.
Right.
And that's when she decides to start the blog to discuss certain things that she comes in contact with and just things that she's noticed. But she also, in her writing and also just in her life, she has completely different perspective. I don't think it's so much a challenge in that she realizes that in some ways she's set apart from all other people who may be she calls herself American African, whereas people here might say they're African American. So she sees herself as being completely outside of that that classification. So, but she can see the obvious sort of nuances between people here, white and black, the interaction between them, and even between people who are black in this country, just between each other and how they interact together. And she kind of points out those nuances that are good or bad, or it's not necessarily call it out to be a lesson so much as just here it is and here realize this, and that's what she does a lot, like in her essays and things like that. She's just calling it out, and again, it's not to be negative. It's not to say, this is what you should do instead. In some ways, she does offer some advice, just because I think she wants to help people. But she does stand aside. She doesn't feel like she's in that necessarily that I don't want to say struggle, but that she's sort of set apart. She's an observer. And that she feels like because of her situation, she has a unique perspective that's completely different than anyone else, because she's coming in and there's sort of expectations of her, but then once they hear her accent, then they think of her as being different, and so there's just a whole dynamic there that is interesting, but yet.
Right. So she's really giving an outside perspective on the way she sees things in the United States. As you said, she sees herself as an American African versus an African American. Can you explain that a little bit? And does she reason within the book on the reasons why that is?
It's in the book, and again, like if you listen to her talk, she can explain it really well. And just that that when she's looked at as being black, there's certain things that are sort of projected on her, but then once she talks or she says, I'm from Nigeria, then the whole dialogue changes. Yes, all of a sudden you know, you have to listen to her because she says all sorts of things. Like, for instance, she'll say that black women are often considered angry, whereas when people met her and she's successful, the first thing they'll say is that you're not angry. You seem like a very nice person. Where she said it's just it's a perspective or a projection on people that she's calling it out. You know, she's not. It's not lecturing. It's not. Talking down, but she just points these things out to people.
So kind of you see somebody from across the room and you already have a preconceived notion of that individual without ever meeting them. And so very good. So if you want to see more about the author, obviously I know you can go online, YouTube, there's probably a lot of some of her lectures. After you finish the book, there's a variety of different outlets where you can learn more about this author and the topics that she discusses. But again, I want to thank Joe for bringing the book to the community. Now, if I want to purchase this book to take a part in the read, how do I do that?
Well, we have a couple of books here available in the library. They're probably checked out currently, but there might be a chance that you could get one of those if you place it on hold. But if you would like to have it right away, we're offering it for $17.91.
Okay, great.
That's at the cost of what we pay to get the books.
Great.
So yeah, we have that.
And you can purchase those here at the Danville Public Library.
Yes.
All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and especially for getting involved in the Danville United, bringing this book discussion to the community. I think it's going to be a wonderful read for everyone out there to get this dialogue started, and hopefully it will lead to some greater things in the future. So look forward to coming to the discussion and hearing what comes out of that discussion. I would love to hear from some of the individuals that take part in this discussion at the end of February. So come on out, get your Americanah book, and we'd love to see you here at the library at the end of February. We're going to take a quick break, and as I mentioned just earlier talking with Joe, the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History, of course a member of Danville United, and they're going to be having a community sing. It's going to be later in April, but I wanted to give you a preview of what's going to be taking place because they're getting involved and just showing the diversity of this great community. So when we come back from break, we'll be at the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History. WorkDanvilleVA.com, the job seeker source for company announcements and employment information for Danville, Virginia. The City of Danville and Danville, Pennsylvania County Chamber of Commerce have created a website to provide information about new companies, job postings, and other helpful tools. Visit WorkDanvilleVA.com for more information. Well, welcome back to this week's edition of What's Up Danville. I'm your host, Mark Aron, Multimedia Design Manager for the City of Danville. Joining me now here at the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History, former Mayor Sam Kushner of the City of Danville, and is currently a board member here at the museum. And we're talking about a wonderful event that has really blossomed out of the meetings of Danville United, as we're going to bring the community together through song. And we're going to talk a little bit about this wonderful event that's going to be taking place in April. But Sam, tell me about the Danville Sing and how this really all came about.
All right, first of all, let me say that the name of this event is Danville Sings. There's a great big exclamation point at the end of that.
Great.
And that's to denote our enthusiasm for this event. We are going to gather with the public on the lawn of the museum on April the 5th at 2:30 p.m. That's a Saturday afternoon, and this is the Saturday preceding Easter week. Okay, Danville Sings is about joy and voice and bringing people together to sing in one voice.
We talk about celebrating Danville's diversity through song. Danville Sings. Tell me about the makeup of this choir that will be singing on the front lawn of the museum on April.
Certainly. We expect to have 100 of the best voices in Danville. 50 will come from approximately 6 African American congregations in Danville, and the other 50 voices will come from traditionally white church choirs. And each of those choirs will sing several selections. There will be the best of African American spirituals, and then there will be the best of church hymns that so many people in Danville know and love.
That's great. It seems like what a great way to celebrate Danville's diversity through song is bringing these churches together, because we are the city of churches.
Absolutely. I'd like to say, too, that this is an event that the museum is presenting in cooperation and partnership with Danville United. Mm-hmm. The museum has signed on to the principles of Danville United. We feel that this event, with several hundred people on the lawn of the museum, rain or shine, singing together, joining hands, raising their voice to celebrate the beauty of voice and the beautiful beauty of these old hymns. We would like nothing better than for all of our multicultural, multiracial guests, having heard or participated in Danville Sings, to come into the museum, get some light refreshments, see the richness of our collection, and help to enrich the museum by their participation.
And speaking of the museum being really a driving force here in the community for diversity, you offer many multicultural activities year-round here at the museum.
Oh, absolutely. We have 5 or 6 different shows or exhibitions throughout the year. There's something new every couple of months. There are so many of our citizens in Danville and Pennsylvania County and Caswell County who know where we are, but who have not found the time to come and enjoy what there is to be experienced. So we're welcoming everybody to the museum.
And let's talk a little bit more about Danville Sings and who will be leading these wonderful voices during this performance.
Well, we're working on our committee with some extremely talented people. One of our choir leaders is Tim Navis, who is the minister of music at Mount Vernon Methodist Church. Tim is full of enthusiasm and has tremendous talent. Working with our black churches is Reverend Serena's Churn, a very talented musician, as well as being a choir master.
That's great. And I know Ron Johnson, who is now the chair of Danville United, is also assisting as well.
Absolutely. Ron is bringing great energy to our committee. We've met for the last month or so, and every committee meeting is more exciting than the previous one. There is a genuine enthusiasm for this project.
And I think that's really the mission behind Danville United, and this is really a great example of community coming together, but also community members really spearheading a new effort here in the city of Danville. This is something brand new for our community, but it's just one of many new things we could bring to the city of Danville when it comes to multicultural events.
Well, as I said earlier, we're very proud to be part of this initiative. It's very exciting. We are just one of what I hope will be many, many other groups and organizations and individuals who will want to get on the bandwagon to help make Danville a more welcoming community, a more tolerant community, a community committed to working together for the betterment of everyone.
Very well said, Sam, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And as we get closer to time, we'll have you back on to give us all the final details of Danville Sings, which will be April, what was the date again and time?
April 5 at 2:30 in the afternoon here on the museum grounds. This is the Saturday preceding Easter week. We ask people to take an hour or so off from whatever shopping they have to do on Saturday and come be with us.
Well, we hope they will, and again, we'll have you back on closer to time. But again, thank you so much and your committee for spearheading this effort here in the community. I think it's going to be a wonderful event right here on the grounds of the Museum of Fine Arts and History here in the city of Danville. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Mark.
Now, before we wrap up this edition of What's Up Danville, I'm joined now by Fred Motley, who is organizing the 13th annual, right? Tell me, you've been doing this 13th annual Storytelling Festival here at the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History. And as we were talking about earlier in the show with the community read and also Danville Sing and bringing individuals together from all walks of life here in our community, Fred's been doing this for about 13 years now. It's a multi-generational event, a free event, and really brings people from all walks of life together. So Fred, tell me a little bit about how the idea of a storytelling festival first came about.
Well, first of all, I think storytelling is like our lifeline. It keeps everything alive. It tells us about places, it tells us about people, and Everything. And so I thought, I was telling stories and people were enjoying it, and I was meeting other storytellers. I said, why not bring it to Danville? So I asked a couple of friends back in 2000 and something, and they said, yeah, we'll come. And so we came for one day, and it was 3 of us, regional storytellers, and we told stories. People enjoyed it, and here it is 13 years later.
And I know you all have probably seen Fred out in the community doing this quite a few different organizations. Fred has volunteered his time for, and Parks and Recreation being one of those. You've talked with the kids and everything. So tell me when this event will take place. Obviously, I mentioned it's a free event, but how long it'll be, and some of the storytellers that will be involved this year.
It's going to be Saturday, February the 15th. Okay. It'll be here at the museum. It's from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And this year we have Lloyd Wilson from Wilmington, North Carolina. We have Robert Kitson from Warren County. We have Josephus Thomas from Greensboro. We have Logie Meacham from Greensboro. And, of course, we have Pat Hall and the Kuma Dancers right here from Danville. And I'll also be telling stories.
So what are some of the stories we'll be hearing at this year's festival?
You're going to hear a whole variety. Lloyd brings his story from the African perspective. Robin brings hers from New Orleans. Josephus brings it from a portrait standpoint of view. And Logie brings it from a blues family point of view.
That's great. It kind of dovetails right in with our Danville United mission and bringing a multicultural facet program to the community. And you're definitely doing that with the storytelling aspect of it. So as I mentioned, it's a free event, and kids of all ages will enjoy this, right?
Well, actually, it's for everybody. Most of the time, when you say storytelling, people think of young people. Right. But actually, storytelling is for everyone. And so it's multi-generation. So if you bring your grandkids, you bring your kids, you're going to find that you are enjoying it more than they do.
That's great. And I know you've got a lot of partners that have come together to make this happen, and you're actually going to recognize some special individuals on that day, right?
Yeah. Well, once again, because storytelling keeps alive events and people, that means people create these activities. And so what we try to do is incorporate how certain people in the area, through their everyday work, through their activism, make Danville a really great place to live. And so this year we're recognizing 6 of those many, many people. We have Jackie Finney, who is with Avery College in theater, has been bringing theater to Danville for years and years and years. We have Clara Fountain, who's been documenting Danville history with books for years and years. We have Richard T. Davis, who was once with the newspaper and documented all of the pictures. We have Brian Price and Mae McLaughlin, who is with the Danville Parks and Rec Department, and we have Miss Marilyn Gunther, who is an educator here in the city of Danville. And through their everyday work, through their activism, they have made Danville a really wonderful place to live. And so we're trying to honor them and recognize them for their contribution to stories, of creating stories here in the city.
Well, that is wonderful for them to get recognition at this festival. Obviously, you mentioned they have done a wonderful job here in our community in a variety of different ways over the years. So great to see them getting recognized on that day.
They deserve it. They deserve it.
Well, Fred, I really appreciate you taking the time briefly to join us on today's show, and hopefully you'll come out to the 13th Annual Storytelling Festival right here on the grounds of the Museum of Fine Arts and History here in the city of Danville. And they get started at what time again, Fred?
At 10 a.m. Okay. And if you come, the storytellers are in rotation. So every 25 minutes they rotate storytellers in and out, and so you'll get a chance to see all of the storytellers.
Very good. Fred, I really appreciate you taking the time again, and the best of luck in this year's Storytelling Festival.
Well, thank you so very much.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of What's Up Danville from the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History. Again, if you would like more information on the community read of Americanah, you can contact the Danville Public Library at the number at the bottom of the screen. And again, we'd love to see you out at the 13th Annual Storytelling Festival that's going to be on Saturday, February the 15th, right here at the museum. Things will get started at 10 a.m. And, of course, we look forward to bringing you more information about Danville Sing, bringing a community together through song right here at the museum coming up in April. So we'll have a lot more information about that great event here on What's Up Danville in the future. So until next week, have a great day.